Brother of Casey Stengel, the Yankees manager. He said he wanted to be a cross between his grandmother and Casey Stengel, which I think he ended up doing rather well. And I watched him get into this character of Max. It was amazing. The latex and the eyebrows and these cataract contact lenses he had and then his wig. And by the time he was finished, he already was getting into character and he was starting to sort of sound like Max, and he was coughing up guitar at the mirror going, and becoming Miracle Man. It was very funny to watch, right? And then he stayed in character after that. He even went to the commissary on the studio lot. I'll never forget, he had a tray with him and he was ordering food, and he asked the lady behind the counter, he goes, the shepherd's pie, is it spicy? And she goes, I don't think so, sir. And he goes, you don't know my colon. Things like that, right? Things like that all day long, right? Now we get to the set, and I'm laying on the slab, and we do a rehearsal, and Rob comes up to me and he says, hey, Cary, I looked in the monitor and we could see your chest moving. You're supposed to be mostly dead, so you gotta stop breathing. And I said, for how long? He goes, don't worry, we're not gonna kill you, don't worry. So he then walks over to Billy and he whispers something in Billy's ear, and I didn't find out later what it was. And what it was, just go for it. Like that. Not that Billy needed much, goading. He was already in. And as soon as Rob yelled action, Billy launched into 3 hours of medieval Yiddish stand-up. Ridiculous, totally ridiculous medieval Yiddish stand-up. And it's slated, so because Rob has a very boisterous laugh. And
He's known for ruining takes, isn't he?
Oh my God. And the sound guy came up to him and went, I'm sorry, Governor, you're going to have to leave the set. And he goes, but I'm the director, how can I leave the set? He says, well, if you want to finish the take, you'll have to leave, sir. So they set up a monitor in the hallway outside the stage for Rob so he could direct us from the hallway and laugh at the same time. And of course, I was next, because I'm laying there trying not to breathe, and I got him doing Yiddish stand-up right over my head like that. And some of it was very blue. It's crazy stuff. Last night I found my nephew with a sheep, a former Viking, no less. Things like that. Really crazy stuff. And so they banished me as well, and they replaced me with my rubber dummy. So if you look at that scene again, in the wide shots, it's my rubber stand-in, the one that Andre carries around on his arm.
I love that both of you. Sorry, you want?
No. And what were we gonna say?
I was saying, I love that both of you got kicked off the set.
Kicked off the set?
It was like you're both in school and
we're both watching the scene from the hallway. It's pretty silly. And then Mandy said he bruised a rib trying to hold in the laugh, which I didn't even know you could do, but apparently you can. And so that's what happened. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Wallace Shawn, who is so amazing in this movie. And Wallace, it turned out, was convinced also that he was getting fired every day.
It was very strange. Wally Shawn, I don't know, how many of you people know Wally before this film? He did a film, yeah, good, one guy right back there, thank you. He did a film called My Dinner with Andre, which is a very beautiful film with Andre Gregory, which I had seen. And he's a brilliant guy, Wally. I mean, he's perfectly cast in this role. I mean, he's a Fulbright scholar. He teaches English and American literature. In fact, he was between scenes when he was shooting in England. He went off to Cambridge and lectured and got paid very handsomely for it. He's a very bright guy. He's a playwright, an author, and an actor, obviously. And a very bright guy. And we're thinking, how lucky are we to have Wally Shawn in this film to play this part of a guy who describes Aristotle and Socrates as morons, it's perfect. And I go to shoot the scene with him, this Battle of Wits scene, and I have a very easy day again, another easy day where he does a lot of the dialogue, right? And talking about never getting involved in a land war in Asia and all that stuff. And I'm just sitting there and nodding, and I have very few lines. And he's sweating. I notice him sweating. I'm thinking, why is Wally Shawn sweating? He's the guy, always the smartest guy in the room. Why? It's not a particularly hot day. It never gets really hot in England. Yeah, why is he sweating, right? We found out later that Wally's agent had told him that he was not the first choice for the role of Vincini, that his agent told him that they wanted Danny DeVito instead.
Was that true?
True, apparently. Yeah. I mean, that agent is no longer representing Wally, of course. And Wally wanted everyone to know, if you're an agent, don't be telling your client that they're not the first choice, because that'll you know, if they're insecure, that's not going to help. And of course, he was very insecure about it, and it wasn't just that he was nervous about Danny DeVito being the first choice. He was convinced that Danny was on a plane, and that he was just filling in until Danny got there. That's how crazy Wally was, right? He actually went up to Rob Reiner and went, "I don't know why you cast me in this role. I'm not even Sicilian, I'm a Jew from New York." And Rob went, "But you're funny. When you're angry, your face gets all red and it's funny." And to this day, I don't think Wally knows just how brilliant he is in the role. And you look back now, and it's inconceivable to think of anyone else, right? In that role? Yeah, give him a round of applause.
He's so good. He said in the book that because he couldn't get Danny DeVito out of his head, and he was convinced that was what they wanted, he was trying to think how Danny would say the lines sometimes.
So he claims that all his delivery of all his lines are how he thinks Danny DeVito would deliver. And that was his attempt to try and stay in the film. But it's funny, you know, as a result of this film, by the way, I think I can speak on behalf of everybody associated with the film when I say that we all feel unbelievably blessed that all of you have taken this film to your hearts. We're so blown away. The film didn't do that big a business when it came out, but now, thanks to VHS and all of you buying copies. How many people owned a VHS copy here? There you go, look at that. Thanks to you guys, this film took off and became the success it is now. And so I just want to thank you all for that, really. Yeah, you know, we all have, this is one of the most quotable films, I mean, as you know, right? And I get to say those 3 words. I always say, "As you wish." If people want me to say it, of course I'll say it to them, you know, and I mean, that's obviously why it took the publishers all 2 seconds to come up with the title of the book. Right? And, but Wally told me that, you know, if he's out in public and he drops his keys, someone go, "Oh, inconceivable!" Or if he's late to, you know, a gate at the airport, and if he misses a plane, the girl behind the counter will go, "Oh, inconceivable." You know, he says it every day. Every day, misses an elevator, inconceivable. You know, and Billy says he can never go to a deli again, ever. Because someone's going to go, "You want that lean, Mr. Crystal?" You know? You know, waiters in a restaurant, all the time. "How do you want that cooked? You want it lean?" It's just, it's weighted.
When do you, I mean, you guys knew you had a great movie, but it didn't. I mean, I actually saw it opening weekend, but when did you hit you guys that this movie had become a classic? Like, that it really had caught on after, you know, it did okay in theaters.
It did okay. It, you know, we didn't really have a trailer. They had one trailer and then they pulled it after about 2 days. And you can go online on YouTube, it's there now. It's pretty silly. It doesn't even have.
It's a lot of Billy Crystal, which is honestly,
which is great, but it doesn't even have Martin Knopfler's music. It has some weird kind of like, I don't know. It seems like soft porn music. And they pulled that. And 50 Shades of Grey, which is my next book. No, that was dreadful. We didn't even have. We had this one-sheet poster, which was very pretty. It was based on sort of a Maxfield Parrish. I'm sure you've seen it. And it's a picture of Peter Falk reading to Fred Savage. It's a very nice poster, but you know, with the title of Princess Bride, most people thought it was a kids' movie, and boys thought it was a girly movie, and that people stayed away. And in fact, it was very smart college students like yourselves from USC and UCLA,
mostly
USC, who when we had a screening here, it was you guys who like spread the word. So give yourselves a round of applause, or your
fight on, guys.
Your parents or your you know, it was them who went to see the screening and raved about it. So you know, and then the VHS copies started coming out, and people were buying them and renting them and giving them as gifts to friends and family, and that's when it took off. I remember I was in New York. It was about a decade after the movie came out, and I was in a restaurant, and I was ordering a hamburger, and the waitress said, "How do you want that cooked?" And I said, "I don't know, medium rare," and she goes, "As you wish." And I went, "What? Excuse me?" And she winked at me and went, "You know." Like that. And it was weird and wonderful. It's the first time I'd heard those 3 words said to me, you know? And from that day forward, we kind of knew we had something suddenly. So it was really wonderful.
The craziest one, because I bet you get this all the time, was when you were in Rome. When you were you with your mother?
With my mother.
Yeah.
And she took me to meet the Pope John Paul II. I know, and I'm blown away. You know what's coming? He was a fan. The Pope was a fan. I know. You can imagine the look on my face, right? There's a picture, literally, in the book of me looking completely... I think I said to him something like that. And he said, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And his aide said, "Oh, this is the actor, Your Holiness." And he went, "Oh, the Princess and the Bride." And honestly, you could have knocked me down with a feather. I went, "You've seen the movie, Your Holiness?" He went, "Yes, very funny, like that. And so I thought, I mean, we've got basically a saint now who's a fan of the film. Can't get better than that.
I'm just picturing Pope John Paul at the Blockbuster in Rome, going looking around.
I want Cinderella and the Princess Bride.
And he never returned it. He had massive late fees, but he absolved them. And then the other big fan who you met, who by the way is a huge movie fan,
right?
The president.
Yes.
So you were at the White House. You were there for.
I was there from the Earth to the Moon.
Yeah.
So they had these Millennium screenings at the White House that President Clinton put together, and they were doing these incredible evenings where they were celebrating art and culture for the last decade or so, or millennium, I guess, and. Yeah, duh. And so one of the nights they decided to screen an episode that I'd done of a series for HBO called From Earth to the Moon, and it was about the Apollo program, and the episode I was in was about Apollo 11. I played Michael Collins, and they screened it. It was incredible. They screened the movie and they showed it in the East Wing, and then afterwards there was a reception. And it was very informal. It was just about 300 people in a room eating hors d'oeuvres. And President Clinton, who's very tall, he's about 6'2" or something, and he's in the middle of the room. And if you had a camera above him, it would look like a whirlpool of people sort of trying to get close to the president. Trying to get a bit of shoving and then a bit of this. People like being very polite, but like basically saying, "I was here first. Excuse me, I've been waiting here for about, thank you. It's like that, right? And finally, we're standing there, my wife and I, and we turn around, and he's right there. And I'm pretty blown away, because he is a very impressive guy. He's very tall, he's very charismatic, and I put out my hand and I say, "Mr. President, my name is," and he goes, "I know exactly who you are." And I'm thinking, what's in my FBI file? Because you have to submit your driver's license and your social. I'm thinking, I didn't do anything wrong. He goes, and he saw that look on my face. He goes, "No, it's not what you think. You were great in this movie tonight, but you were fabulous as Wesley in The Princess Bride. Chelsea and I have seen it over 100 times. You're wonderful in that film." I was blown away. And I said, my wife spoke up right away, and she goes, "Mr. President, wouldn't it be great if Cary sent Chelsea an autographed copy of the script?" And he went, "You know something, Lisa Marie? She would really appreciate that." And I said, "Of course, Mr. President, be happy to do it." And so we took a picture with him, and it's in the book. It's incredible. So
It's pretty great.
It's this. I call it the gift that keeps on giving. This film. It really is. It's. I feel very blessed to be a part of it, and it's extraordinary.
That's pretty great. I have two more quick questions, and then we'll start the book signing. The movie ends perfectly. It's a perfect film. But I actually kind of love the alternate ending that you guys shot. Do you want to tell them what that was?
There was an idea to shoot some other ending, and that was so. In the end of the movie, you have Fred Savage with Peter Falk, and Peter Falk turns to him as he's leaving and winks and says, "As you wish" to him, right? And that's the end of the movie, essentially. But Rob shot a sequence where Fred Savage's character hears a noise in the courtyard, and he goes to the window, and he opens the window, and he finds us four, Fezzik and myself and Buttercup and Montoya, all on our white horses, and we beckon him to join us on our next adventure, right? So it was a moment where sort of fantasy and reality mixed. And of course, Andre, we got him a Clydesdale, which is the horse they use for the Budweiser. They're massive, And this horse, even though it was a 7'4" horse, it looked at Andre and just went, "Forget it." So he had to blindfold it and give it tons of drugs before he would even allow Andre to come near. And then we had to put Andre in a harness and lower him enough where he wasn't actually touching the saddle, because if the horse felt Andre touching the saddle, it would bolt. And so Rob Reiner said he came to the set and found Andre swigging some brandy going, "Hey boss," and you know, he said, "What kind of movie am I making? This is crazy." And so, but he looked at the footage later on and he said, it didn't really work. It was better not to mix the fantasy life with the real life. So we shot it, but it never ended up being in the film. Yeah.
I think it's a better ending, but I kind of like that version. Well, my last question for you is that, you know, this is our Movies We Love program, which is movies that we love, that we want to share. You've done so many films over the years. Is there one of yours that people might not know as well, that you're like, wow, I'm really proud of this, I think this is pretty great, that people could check out?
I don't know, I don't really, I'm very proud of all the work I've done. I mean, not all of them have been that successful, but this one has obviously meant a lot to me because it was my first big Hollywood film. I was working with what I describe as a tsunami of talent around me, you know, and it was the film that launched my career. So that's why I wrote the book. I always get asked by fans, you know, was it as much fun making the film as it looked? And I always tell folks it was more fun, and that's why I want to write this book, to share with all of you how much fun it was, and a love letter, if you will, because I can barely remember a day without laughter, and that's a wonderful thing, you know.
That's pretty great. Well, you guys are all in for a treat when you read the book, because there's a lot of other great stories. All right, so before we start the book signing, let's have a big round of applause for Cary Elwes for coming here tonight. Thank you so much. So we're going to go outside and set up, and then I think, what else? We're going to bring each row out one at a time. Is that the plan? Because there's a lot of you here, and we want to get to everybody. And just again, if you have the book, he's happy to sign that, but that's what we're signing tonight. So, so if you don't have the book, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You should go buy it.
Thank you.
And also no videos, I was told as well.